This is the video. Mr. Swirl, the internet's most disturbed user. I think this might be a good video. I'm home alone, by the way, so I might actually self.
And together,
Okay, let me shut it.
They always did, getting lost in their screens, wasting the day away, until one of the boys felt a tap on his shoulder.
Okay.
Standing there beside them was a similarly aged child, a stranger to the boys, but a friendly one who strikes up a conversation and eventually poses an offer. According to the unnamed child, he had a friend who lived close by that owned a special computer, one far better than the device they were currently using. He was headed to that friend's home right now, but he didn't want to go alone. It was an offer that the boys just couldn't refuse, and considering the child was clearly around their age, they saw no red flags and agreed to go with him.
Wait, this story might actually be f***ed. Okay, let me shut it. Okay, wait. Okay, shout out to everyone in the stream right now, by the way. Okay, disclaimer, guys. The following program may be disturbing for some viewers and deals with topics such as child abuse and CP. It's that bad. Sort of reminds me of Obito from North. Bro, I thought it was Obito when I saw the thumbnail. I'm not even gonna lie. Oh, this guy's a whole ass pedo, bro. Then it's most notorious predator. Oh fuck.
It's unclear if they knew what they were looking for, or if they happened upon it by pure chance. But in 2004, German police entered a long-forgotten storage unit, where beneath the piles of junk and old appliances, they'd unearth a single hard drive. Once plugged into the computer, the device revealed hundreds of images, some showing various locations, breathtaking scenery, delicious meals.
Wait, where did this happen? Did this happen in Germany?
CP. The images showed scenes of depraved sexual abuse being done to individuals who were clearly minors, with this abuse being far worse than you'd ever imagine. And it wasn't just one child either, as across that hard drive seemed to be evidence of multiple separate instances of abuse.
It goes over, it happened, I got you.
Young boys taken in a dark apartment building.
That's so
the discovery was horrid, though sadly
like 3 young boys into a dark apartment.
Oh, fucking hell. For investigators who encountered things of this nature on a daily basis, and it's a discovery that likely would have never been discussed by the media after that one day, had it not been for one unusual detail. Typically, in cases involving CP, those taking the photographs
that's what shit is always wild shady.
Abuse will almost always go out of their way to ensure that they aren't shown on camera. That way, if authorities should stumble upon it, they would essentially be unidentifiable. However, the dozens of photos found on this particular hard drive were different, because rather than hiding just out of frame like all the other predators seemed to do, the man behind these images had instead gone out of his way to ensure he was featured within them.
Oh, what a sick, twisted bro.
Himself into every single picture, even posing for them before, during, and after he had changed the lives of these kids forever. And although his entire body was shown in these photographs, the only thing hiding his identity was the addition of a single effect, one that swirled the man's face into a distorted, pixelated mess, making him completely unrecognizable, and leaving his face to look like this.
So that is on some Obito shit. In all seriousness, this is though. But why did he... I'm not even gonna...
There was something so disturbingly arrogant about it. A man posing with his victims while destroying their lives, hiding behind only a single swirl of color, almost as if he was taunting any investigators who might eventually find these images. And given the clear indications that this man was obviously a serial abuser, and likely still out there offending, tracking this anonymous figure down became priority 1 for law enforcement in the area.
Damn.
It's there that he would be given his nickname, Mr. Swirl. And with the swirl being the only thing standing in the way of investigators getting to see his face, most would have assumed that identifying him would be a walk in the park. However, this was far from the case. As the images began to be dissected, it quickly became apparent that deciphering the sensor was going to be far more difficult than initially thought, and potentially even impossible.
Yo, no way, bro. No way. Like, look at this guy, bro. And all these guys have like no idea what sort of disgusting beast this guy is.
As the pixels had been scrambled in such a unique way that there wasn't any known method to unscramble it. And quickly, what should have been their most valuable clue, the one that stood so tantalizingly close, became a lost cause, leaving investigators at their first dead end. Realizing that things were about to get much more difficult, the German police enlisted the help of an agency known as Interpol, an international crime-stopping organization with a special unit dedicated to resolving crimes against children. Interpol immediately began to get to work, attempting to decipher the photos in a different way, this time by using context clues in the pictures to track down where exactly they were taken, which in turn could tell them where this man was from and where the abuse was taking place. But this too unearthed yet another problem. The first batch of images was discovered to have come from Cambodia, but the next showed evidence that the man was in Vietnam, and then in Thailand, and potentially even South Korea as well.
Okay, so he's
Rather
mostly
than gaining
Asia.
clarity, the locations of these images instead made the search even wider, as the man was seemingly traveling from country to country, committing his crimes, and then fleeing, thus never staying long enough for law enforcement to catch up with him, making it completely unclear to investigators where he was actually from. And given just how vast his travels were, at this point, it was realized that Mr. Swirl could be anywhere, a moving target, so to speak, and an active one as well, featuring that disturbed, swirling face. The images were shared across the web seemingly straight from the man himself, and were sent out to various predatory groups that were filled with individuals just as sick as he was. Within these groups, it was considered a badge of honor to show your body and face within the content you made, thus leading to the sender becoming well respected among his peers, which showed us two things. One, that this was likely the reason why Mr. Swirl inserted himself in these photos, as it had led to him becoming a beloved member of their twisted community, in turn granting him access to all the CP he could want. And two, that the images found on the hard drive did not account for his whole body of work, as in these chat rooms and forums, police would find far more photos featuring their suspect, raising the total from a few dozen to nearly 300.
Bro.
By this point, Mr. Swirl had been untraceable. Authorities were essentially searching for a ghost, and though these new images must have felt like a gut punch at first, they would eventually prove to be integral to their investigation, as for the first time in their hunt, Mr. Swirl had made a key error.
Yeah, fuck you.
Within these postings, Mr. Swirl had forgotten to hide his IP address, in turn revealing the general area in which they...
How did this guy forget to hide his IP address, but make sure to do the swirl on his face each time, while he's traveling from country to country? Okay.
...been sent, with the location being Vancouver, Canada.
And I was in Canada?
The key detail that he had some sort of tie to Vancouver, and that he was likely a sex tourist, someone who travels to countries that have loose laws around their age of consent in order to be able to abuse children without any repercussions. With Mr. Swirl clearly doing the same thing, visiting multiple countries in Asia, making his material, coming home and then sharing it with his friends. And unbeknownst to the team working on Operation Vico, they were quickly approaching an even bigger revelation. As authorities were working hard on pinning down Mr. Swirl's location, some members of the team held on hope that the images themselves could still be unscrambled, and upon digging a bit deeper, one member of the team would actually recognize the swirl as having come from...
Bro, that's so fucked. Like, did he swirl into, like, one of his eyes? Like, I'd assume this is, like, one of his eyes or something. I don't know.
...from a fairly standard editing program, which revealed something. The swirl effect wasn't like a typical sensor or blur. Those effects completely mask or even remove the pixels from the actual photograph, making them nearly impossible to decipher. But this effect did neither of those things, and instead it simply rearranged the pixels of the man's face into a swirling pattern, meaning that this image still contained all of its original pixels, and Mr. Swirl's face was somewhere in this picture. They just had to piece it together. And so, in
like,
what
how do you
must
even
have felt
piece
like a
this
Hail
shit?
Mary at the time, an investigator put one of the images into that very same editing software, then clicked that very same swirl effect, and simply reversed it.
No way,
which
no way was that easy.
Led to this.
Do we see his face? No way it was that easy to see his face. Oh my god, bro. Like, look at this guy. Like, he really thought he was slick with that freaking Obito shit.
In an investigation that started all the way back in 2004, finally, Mr. Swirl's face was revealed with a single click.
So much work for one click is crazy.
Confirming not only what the man looked like, but also that it was truly just
But how long did it take them to just do that reverse effect? You know, I'm his mom.
Man behind the Swirl, and now all they had to do was find him. Interpol first started their search by sending this man's image to every single police station the network had access to, asking if anyone across the world had a criminal in their database who might match this photo, but this attempt would fall flat, indicating that whoever this man was, he likely had no prior criminal record.
Okay.
Time was clearly of the essence, and they knew that with every waking moment, Mr. Swirl could be adding to his list of growing victims. And wanting to act fast, Interpol made a fairly unprecedented decision. They reached out to every single major news outlet across the world and asked them to show this man's face on their broadcast to help bring this predator to justice. Additionally, the images of Mr. Swirl's face were also plastered in all corners of the internet, and within just one day, the story was quite literally everywhere. What started as a small search for an anonymous man had become an international manhunt overnight, and within just hours, Mr. Swirl would be anonymous no more.
Okay, but how long did it take to catch him?
Top news story this hour. The worldwide search for a suspected pedophile is concentrated in Thailand this morning.
Like, this got international, bro.
The CBC's Michael McAuliffe reports from Bangkok.
This morning, Interpol announced they now believe they know who the man is. He's been identified as a Canadian, 32-year-old Christopher Paul Neal.
His name is Christopher Paul Neal. Not only did Neal's face and body...
bro, like, look at him. Like, I shouldn't be roasting people based on appearance, but we know what he's done. So this guy deserves to get cooked anyway.
Match perfectly with...
like...
Mr. Swirl, but he also had grown up just outside of Vancouver where the IP was tracked to. And he had moved from country to country across Asia in recent years, countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand. The resemblance was so undeniable that even one of his own family members came forward to help identify him.
Is that him?
Christopher Neal was in fact Mr. Swirl, a discovery that came with some disturbing revelations. As it turns out, Christopher Neal was actually working as a children's English teacher, a job he had held in each of the countries he was discovered to have abused young boys in, making it likely that he used his position of power to lure in children from his classes to eventually abuse them and share their photos online. Along with this, it was also revealed that he had used his relationships with young boys to help lure in other children for him to assault. As looking back on the story that started this video,
did they not tell their parents?
His child he knew to lure those two brothers back to his apartment. This discovery also shined a spotlight on his social media pages, and specifically his MySpace page, where he chillingly wrote, "Loving Asia, will I ever come back?" while in the midst of his abuse spree. But for me, one of the most shocking revelations was that those images that he had posted during the investigation weren't actually posted to his computer. At some point in the early 2000s, Neal had stopped home for a brief vacation to visit his family, and while there, he decided to upload all of his CP to his internet friends. But rather than using his internet friends or a public computer, he instead broke into his own brother's laptop and uploaded his content there. That way, the images would be tracked to his brother and not him, which explained why he never bothered to hide his IP address. The more they learned,
put all that shit on his brother, basically,
became,
like just in case.
At the time they discovered his identity, it was revealed that he had currently been working in South Korea as a teacher. But when the officers arrived to arrest the man, he was already long gone. Having certainly seen his face all over the news, Christopher made the decision to flee the country, being spotted in this image captured at an airport in Thailand.
Bro, he betrayed his own family.
Country, likely in an attempt to find refuge. Throughout the following days and weeks, his likeness would turn up time and time again in the country, indicating that he was somewhere in Thailand hiding out. And having cornered him in the region, it wouldn't take long for police to knock on the door of an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere, in which Christopher Neal happened to be hiding, bringing the
caught him like that?
Search for Mr. Swirl to an end.
So he was hiding in Thailand. Oh, look at them covering his disgusting little face. You fucking pedo. Bro, they should just beat him up right there on the spot. Like, look at him. He's in shame.
Following his arrest by Thai police, Neal will be charged for his assault on those 3 young boys from the internet cafe, as it was the only crime they could prove had taken place in their country. And with it, carried to prison as it was the only crime they could prove had taken place in...
Like, he knows he fucked up now. He knows. He thinks he can hide this sadness behind these fucking glasses, bro. Like, you fucked up. Like, you're
country,
trash.
and with it carried a prison sentence of 5 years. Admittedly, the sentencing was light, but the plan was to have Neil turned over to Canadian authorities after he did his time in Thailand, where they would also prosecute him all over again, with the hope being that they could do the same thing with countries like Cambodia and Vietnam, and essentially force him to live out his life in prison. However, when the sentence was completed in 2012, and Christopher was deported back to Canada, the shocking decision was made to allow Christopher Neil to walk free.
What?
When Neil was detained in Canada, authorities let him walk under the condition that he would never own a device that connected to the internet again.
No way
as
this
well
is
as the
actually
agreement
real.
That he would stay away from parks, schools, and also register as a sex offender. I can't for the life of me understand why this decision was made, but from what I could gather, it seemed to center around the fact that his crimes were international, and that none of his other victims had actually come forward, meaning the other countries they had hoped would prosecute never actually bothered to pursue it. And because his crimes didn't happen on Canadian soil, not much could really be done, legally speaking. And so in the end, the hunt for Mr. Swirl ended up lasting almost as long as the sentence he served. And even after everything this man did, he was let loose and allowed to assimilate back into society.
That's so bad.
But this isn't where our story ends.
It better not.
Not even a full year later in 2013, it would be uncovered that Christopher Neil had somehow managed to purchase a computer, and also connect it to the internet. A clear violation of his conditions.
Well, I know what
And
they're
though he
expecting,
claimed
to be
it was
honest.
just for writing a book about his life experiences, when investigators seized the device, they would, unsurprisingly, find even more CP. 25 images to be exact, including 2 with his signature.
I mean, they're really fucked up
sworn
with releasing him the first time.
As it turns out, Christopher had been using the device to contact his fellow pedophile friends, where he would even message one of his
Oh, did he say pedo friends?
right after his release, saying, "The Swirl liveth still," proving without a shadow of a doubt that he was remorseless about his crimes, and took pride in his new nickname. And
What did he
somehow,
do? He's
the
basically just a
discovery got
pedo.
even worse
Like,
from there, as it was
the most
revealed
disgusting
that a friend
pedo
of his
ever.
had shown him how to access the deep web, and how to share these photographs in practically an untraceable way, thus allowing him to continue being active in these predatory groups, no matter what restrictions were placed on him.
Bro, what the fuck?
After Canadian police made this discovery, Christopher would yet again be arrested, and this time they had the chance to really send a message and put him away forever.
Can
as
they
clearly
do it?
letting him walk away
What
the
did they do?
first
What did
time
they
was a
do?
mistake, as he wasn't reformed even in the slightest. And so, to make up for this, the judge would give Christopher Neil the whopping sentence of just 5.5 years.
He gets 5.5 years. 5.5 years.
With time served, meaning that he would only end up in jail for a little over 14 months. The prosecution praised the sentence as a win, and Christopher vowed to change his ways, but it just doesn't sit right.
Wait,
As of
no way that's the end,
2016,
right?
Mr. Swirl, the man responsible for dozens and dozens of instances of extreme child abuse,
No way that's it, right?
which by the way are just the ones that we know of, is a free man, now living a normal life in Vancouver. And worst of all, he now has access to share this material through untraceable avenues, meaning that there is a good chance that
Wait, he got arrested again in 2013, right? Bro, no.
he could still be out there obtaining, sharing.
Yeah, he should
who
be
knows,
free right now.
Maybe even producing his content. The case of Mr. Swirl is such a frustrating one. For once, a case of this nature gained worldwide attention and was pursued by the full
5
extent of the law,
years.
with the folks over at Interpol doing a fantastic job with the case, only for it all to be deflated once he was finally captured. And just knowing that he's out there living a normal life after all this, after all the lives that he's forever affected, makes this one of the most disheartening cases we've covered to date.
This is actually so unfair. Bro, imagine all, like, the young kids that got molested and their parents seeing this. And he just gets away with this sort of shit. Bro, what the fuck, bro? Nah. He went for 14 months? It wasn't even 5.5? Yo, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. This shit's so fucked up, bro. Nah. This was a good video though, but what the fuck? If you're interested in becoming a better video editor or edit in a similar way like me, then check out the link in the description below.